He leaned forward slightly. The thing is, Maya, people are still asking questions about you. Who you are. What happened after you were escorted away, why you haven't come forward to tell your story. Maya nodded, understanding the implications. And we can't exactly tell them I was on a classified mission to Istanbul to unravel terrorist financing networks. Precisely. Which is why I wanted to discuss options with you. Director Alvarez opened another folder, this one containing what appeared to be a carefully crafted cover story. We can issue a statement through appropriate channels, explaining that you're a private citizen who chose not to speak publicly about the incident. We can arrange a small settlement from the airport authority, nothing that would raise eyebrows, and have your lawyer, fictitious, of course, issue a statement that you're satisfied with the policy changes implemented and wish to move on with your life. It was a clean solution. The public would get closure, the story would gradually fade from the news cycle, and Maya could return to her work without fear of her cover being compromised. But something about it felt wrong, incomplete. What if we approached it differently? Maya suggested after a moment of thought. Director Alvarez raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. We can't reveal my identity or my actual role, obviously. But what if I could contribute to the changes being made without stepping into the spotlight? Maya tapped her fingers on the table, thinking through the possibilities. The airport is implementing new training programs, right? What if I help design them? Not as Maya Johnson, CIA operative, but as a consultant with expertise in security protocols and bias awareness. Director Alvarez considered this. Working behind the scenes, exactly. I wouldn't be publicly identified with the viral video, but I could help ensure that the new policies actually make a difference, that they're not just window dressing to quiet the public outcry. It would require careful handling, Director Alvarez warned. We'd need to create a solid consulting background for you, arrange for the right introductions, but it's doable, Maya pressed. And it would mean that something truly positive came from what happened at Dulles, something more substantial than just firing 2 officers and instituting training that might or might not be effective. Director Alvarez studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I'll run it up the chain. No promises, but I think we could make it work. He gathered the folders and stood to leave, then paused at the door. You know, most agents in your position would just want to move on to the next mission. Put this behind them, Maya shrugged. Most agents haven't spent their entire lives dealing with incidents like the one at Dulles. This isn't just about me or even about those 2 officers. It's about making sure the next woman who looks like me doesn't have to go through the same thing. Director Alvarez nodded. I'll be in touch once I have approval. 6 weeks later, Maya stood at the back of a training room at Dulles International Airport, watching as 20 security officers participated in a scenario-based exercise about equitable enforcement of policies. Her official role was as Dr. Maya Johnson, security consultant with expertise in procedural fairness and de-escalation techniques. Her actual identity remained undisclosed, known only to the airport's chief of security, who, Maya suspected, had been informed of her true role by someone in the government, though he never mentioned it. The training program she'd helped design was already showing promising results. Complaints about discriminatory treatment had declined by 38% in just the first month. More importantly, the culture among the security staff was gradually shifting, with veteran officers beginning to intervene when they observed problematic behavior from their colleagues. That was an excellent session, Dr. Johnson, said Tanya Williams, the newly appointed head of the airport's Civilian Oversight Committee. The feedback from the officers has been surprisingly positive. Maya smiled. I'm glad to hear it. Most officers want to do their job well. They just need the right tools and framework to understand how bias can affect their decisions. Will you be able to stay on as we roll this out to all shifts? Tanya asked hopefully. Maya shook her head. I'm afraid I have another consulting engagement starting next week. But the program is designed to be self-sustaining. The peer mentors we've trained should be able to handle the expansion. In reality, she had a new assignment beginning, an operation in Morocco tracking weapons shipments. Her time at Dulles had been valuable, but the work of the CIA continued. As she gathered her materials, Maya noticed a familiar face on the television mounted in the corner of the room. The news was showing footage of Hassan Khalidi being led into a courthouse, with a caption noting that the suspected terrorist financier was facing charges in federal court. Maya felt a quiet satisfaction. That was the part of her work that would never make headlines, at least not with her name attached. The dangerous missions, the critical intelligence gathering, the operations that protected countless lives, all conducted in the shadows. Yet here, in this training room at Dulles, she had managed to make a different kind of difference. A more visible one, perhaps less dramatic than disrupting terrorist networks, but no less important in its own way. As she walked through the terminal toward the exit, Maya passed the security checkpoint where it had all begun. New signs were prominently displayed, outlining passenger rights and the complaint process. Security officers were interacting with travelers professionally, without the selective enforcement she'd witnessed months ago. Small changes, perhaps, in the grand scheme of things, but meaningful ones. Outside, her government car was waiting to take her back to Langley for her mission briefing. Maya slipped on her sunglasses and stepped into the bright afternoon sunlight, ready for whatever came next. She was, after all, many things at once: an intelligence operative, a change agent, a woman who had turned a moment of injustice into an opportunity for progress. And somewhere in the world, there was always another mission waiting. Maya patted her bag. All here, photographed and encrypted, ready for transmission. Good, Agent Patel said. But we can't transmit from here. The Turkish intelligence services have been upgrading their signal interception capabilities. We need to get you and the intelligence out of the country. What's the plan? Maya asked. We have a diplomatic vehicle arriving in 1 hour, Agent Chen explained. It'll take you to the American consulate. From there, you'll fly out on a diplomatic flight tomorrow morning. Maya considered this. The consulate will be watched. Yes, Agent Patel agreed. But we have a distraction planned. Plus, you won't be going in as yourself. He opened a metal case on the table, revealing a diplomatic passport, credentials, and a complete appearance-altering kit. Meet Cultural Attaché Patricia Reynolds, Agent Chen said with a slight smile, arriving today for a 3-day visit to discuss an upcoming art exhibition. Maya examined the materials. The cover was solid. Diplomatic protection would make it much harder for Turkish intelligence to interfere, and the cultural attaché role aligned well with her art dealer cover. What about the footage? She asked suddenly. The agents exchanged confused looks. What footage? Agent Patel asked. From Dulles, the incident with the airport police. There was at least one person filming it. Understanding dawned on Agent Chen's face. The airport incident, right. We've been so focused on the situation here, we haven't been updated on that. She turned to her computer and typed rapidly. Let me check. Yes, there was an incident report filed and... Oh. What? Maya asked. Agent Chen looked up from her screen. The video was uploaded to social media about 2 hours ago. It's starting to gain traction. She turned the monitor so Maya could see. The footage showed her being confronted by officers Wilson and Daniels, their body language aggressive as they escorted her away from the security checkpoint. The video was shot from a distance, but clear enough to show what was happening. The caption read, Black woman kicked out of Dulles for inappropriate clothing, while white women in similar outfits walk by unbothered. Flying while black, Maya stared at the screen. The video had already accumulated thousands of views and shares, with comments flooding in, most expressing outrage at the officer's behavior. This complicates things, Agent Patel said quietly. Maya nodded. While her face wasn't clear enough in the video to compromise her identity as an agent, it was clear enough that someone who knew her might recognize her. More importantly, the video put a spotlight on an incident that should have remained under the radar. Can we have it taken down? She asked. Agent Chen shook her head. Not without drawing more attention to it. And honestly, it's probably been downloaded and reposted already. The internet doesn't forget. Maya sighed. She should have expected this. In an age of smartphones and social media, no injustice went undocumented for long. Focus on the mission, Agent Patel reminded her. We need to get you and this intelligence out of Turkey. The Dulles incident can be dealt with later. Maya nodded, turning her attention back to the diplomatic credentials. He was right. The mission came first. The video and what it revealed about officers Wilson and Daniels would have to wait. For the next hour, she worked with Agent Chen to transform her appearance, coloring her hair a lighter shade, adding subtle makeup to alter the appearance of her facial features, and practicing the slight Boston accent that Patricia Reynolds was noted to have. By the time the diplomatic vehicle arrived at the safe house's secret garage entrance, Maya Johnson had disappeared. In her place stood cultural attaché Patricia Reynolds, confident and poised, with the vital intelligence securely hidden in a diplomatic pouch that would be exempt from search or seizure. As they prepared to leave, Agent Patel handed her a secure tablet. Latest update from headquarters. The video from Dulles has gone viral. Over 1 million views now. Maya glanced at the screen, seeing screenshots from various news sites that had picked up the story. The headlines were variations on a theme: racial profiling at Dulles Airport, woman ejected from airport for outfit, while white passengers wear similar clothes. Viral video sparks outrage over airport security practices. She handed the tablet back to Agent Patel. Let's focus on getting out of Istanbul first. Then we can deal with the fallout from Dulles. The diplomatic vehicle pulled up to the garage door. It was time to go. Ready, Cultural Attaché Reynolds? Agent Chen asked. Maya straightened her blazer and nodded. Ready. The mission continued, but now with an unexpected complication. The incident at Dulles, meant to be a minor obstacle quickly overcome, had taken on a life of its own in the court of public opinion. And somewhere in Virginia, Officers Wilson and Daniels were about to discover that the woman they had targeted wasn't quite as powerless as they had assumed. 3 months had passed since the Istanbul mission. Maya sat in a small conference room at CIA headquarters in Langley, reviewing the final impact reports from Operation Lighthouse. The intelligence she'd brought back had led to the disruption of 3 major terrorist financing networks, the freezing of over $2 billion in illicit funds, and the arrest of 17 key operatives, including Hassan Khalidi. By any professional measure, it was an extraordinary success, the kind of outcome that defined careers and saved countless lives. Quite the achievement, said a voice from the doorway. Maya looked up to see Director Alvarez, her ultimate superior and the person who had authorized the emergency protocols at Dulles. He was a tall man with salt and pepper hair and the weathered face of someone who had spent decades in the field before moving to administration. Thank you. Sir? Maya said, standing as he entered the room. Sit, please, he said, taking a seat across from her. I've just come from a briefing with the National Security Council. The President sends his personal thanks for your work on this operation. Maya nodded, acknowledging the rare compliment. Presidential recognition wasn't something agents received often. The financial intelligence was even more valuable than we anticipated. Director Alvarez continued. Treasury says it's given them a roadmap to dozens of shell companies they hadn't previously connected to terrorist financing. Kamal delivered more than we expected, Maya agreed. Has there been any blowback on him? None. His cover remains intact and the Turkish authorities never made the connection to our operation. He's been promoted, actually. Now has access to an even higher level of intelligence. Maya smiled. Kamal had taken an enormous risk in passing along that information. It was good to know he'd not only survived but thrived. Director Alvarez slid a folder across the table to her. But that's not why I'm here. This just came across my desk and I thought you should see it. Maya opened the folder. Inside was a report from Dulles International Airport's Internal Affairs Division, along with newspaper clippings and printouts of social media posts. The airport incident, she said. Scanning the documents, yes, Director Alvarez nodded. It seems your encounter with those officers sparked quite the firestorm. That was an understatement. The viral video of her being escorted away from security had racked up over 10 million views across various platforms. News organizations had picked up the story, running headlines about racial profiling at airports. Civil rights organizations had issued statements. Politicians had weighed in. And through it all, Maya had been in Istanbul, then on a secure flight back to the United States, and finally in debriefing sessions at Langley, completely disconnected from the public outcry her experience had triggered. The 2 officers, Wilson and Daniels, they've been terminated, Director Alvarez said, pointing to one of the reports. The internal investigation revealed a pattern of similar incidents targeting women of color. When they reviewed the security footage from your encounter, combined with the cell phone video that went viral, they had no choice but to let them go. Maya felt a complicated mix of emotions. On one level, she was satisfied that the officers had faced consequences for their actions. On another, she knew that firing 2 individuals wouldn't solve the larger systemic problems that had allowed their behavior to go unchecked for so long. There's more, Director Alvarez continued. The airport authority has instituted new training programs for all security personnel, focusing specifically on unconscious bias and equal enforcement of policies. They're also implementing body cameras for all officers and creating a civilian review board to handle complaints. Maya raised her eyebrows, impressed despite herself. That's substantial. It is, Director Alvarez agreed. And it's largely because of how clear-cut your case was. The video showed you wearing perfectly appropriate travel clothes while being escorted out. And in the background, you can see several white women wearing similar or even more casual outfits passing through security, without comment. Maya stood and shook his hand. The pleasure is mine, Mr. Ozturk. Thank you for making time in your schedule. They sat and Kamal ordered a tea from the passing waiter. To any observer, they would appear to be business associates meeting to discuss a potential deal, which was, in fact, their cover story. Maya was supposedly interested in acquiring Ottoman-era artifacts for her gallery in the United States, and Kemal was a government official who could help navigate the complex regulations surrounding such transactions. I hope your journey was pleasant, Kamal said once the waiter had moved away. Maya thought briefly of Officers Wilson and Daniels, of the humiliation and the near-miss disaster at Dulles, but she simply smiled and said, "There were some unexpected complications, but nothing insurmountable." Kamal nodded, understanding the subtext. In their line of work, unexpected complications could mean anything from flight delays to armed confrontations. "I've brought the documentation you requested," he said, placing his briefcase on the table and opening it just enough to retrieve a manila folder. "These pieces are quite remarkable, truly one of a kind." Maya took the folder, recognizing the code phrase that confirmed the authenticity of the information. "I'm looking forward to examining them in detail." She opened the folder casually as if reviewing photos of artifacts, but what she saw inside made her heart race. Bank statements, transaction records, names and dates. The evidence they'd been seeking for 3 years, proof that connected a network of shell companies to terrorist financing operations across 3 continents. "These are indeed exceptional," she said, keeping her voice steady despite the significance of what she was holding. "Exactly what I was hoping to find." Kamal nodded, taking a sip of his tea. "There is one more item of particular interest," he said quietly. "A rare piece that only became available recently. It's in the back of the folder." Maya flipped to the last page and had to work to maintain her neutral expression. It was a photograph of a man she recognized immediately. Hassan Khalidi, a high-value target who had eluded intelligence agencies for years. The photo showed him entering a building in Ankara, time-stamped just 3 days ago. "This is unexpected," she said carefully. "A fortunate discovery," Kemal replied. The seller was quite eager to include it in the collection. Maya understood the implication. Kemal's source, whoever they were, had provided this additional intelligence without being asked. It was a goldmine, and potentially dangerous. "I appreciate the comprehensive nature of your offering," she said, closing the folder and placing it in her handbag. "My clients will be very pleased." She signaled for the check, maintaining the casual demeanor of a satisfied customer concluding a routine business transaction. "Will you be staying in Istanbul long?" Kemal asked as the waiter brought their bill. "Just a few days," Maya replied. "Enough time to finalize the arrangements for shipping these pieces." The true meaning was clear. She would need time to verify the intelligence and prepare it for secure transmission to headquarters. They parted with handshakes and pleasantries, 2 professionals concluding a successful meeting. As Maya watched Kamal walk away across the square, she felt a surge of satisfaction. Despite everything, the incident at Dulles, the last-minute flight change, the compressed timeline, the mission was proceeding exactly as planned. Now she just needed to get the intelligence back to headquarters safely. Maya took a winding route back to her hotel, doubling back several times to ensure she wasn't being followed. The folder in her handbag felt heavier than its actual weight. The information inside could dismantle terrorist networks and save countless lives. But it could also get her killed if it fell into the wrong hands. Back in her hotel room, Maya secured the door and checked for signs of entry during her absence. Finding none, she sat at the desk by the window and opened her laptop. First, she photographed each document from the folder using a specialized app that enhanced the images and encrypted them simultaneously. Then she began the meticulous process of analyzing what Kamal had given her. The financial records were comprehensive: bank transfers between shell companies, offshore accounts, and eventually to known terrorist organizations. The money trail was complex, designed to be nearly impossible to follow, but Kamal's information provided the missing links. Most surprising was the photo of Hassan Khalidi. Intelligence had placed him in Pakistan just 2 weeks ago. His appearance in Turkey suggested something big was happening, something that required his personal attention. Maya encrypted her analysis and prepared it for transmission to headquarters. Just as she was about to send the file, her secure phone buzzed with an incoming message. Delay transmission. Possible compromise at your location. Extraction team en route. 8 to 10 minutes. Maya's training kicked in immediately. She closed her laptop, wiped down surfaces she had touched, and packed her essential items. The room itself had been reserved under a cover identity, but she couldn't risk leaving anything behind that might be traced back to her or the agency. A knock at the door made her freeze. The extraction team wouldn't be here yet. Room service, called a male voice. Maya hadn't ordered anything. She drew her compact pistol and moved silently to the side of the door. I didn't order room service, she called back. A pause. Then, complimentary tea service for all guests, ma'am. Maya checked the peephole. A hotel staff member stood outside with a tea tray. But something was off. His collar was too tight, his posture too rigid for a casual hotel employee. She opened her compact mirror and activated the emergency signal again, then quickly sent a text message. Possible hostile at door. Will attempt exit via fire escape. Maya grabbed her go bag and moved to the window. The fire escape was just as she'd noted during her earlier security check, accessible and leading down to a side alley. She opened the window quietly and stepped onto the metal platform. Just as she was closing the window behind her, she heard the door to her room burst open. Voices shouted in Turkish. She caught words like search and American. Maya descended the fire escape as quickly and quietly as possible. When she reached the alley below, she ditched her jacket and pulled a scarf from her bag, wrapping it around her head in the style many local women wore. The simple change would make her harder to identify from a distance. She walked briskly but didn't run, blending into the afternoon crowd as she made her way toward the extraction point, a small bookstore 3 blocks away that served as a CIA safe house. Halfway there, Maya spotted 2 men in dark suits walking purposefully against the flow of pedestrians, scanning faces, not typical tourist behavior. She ducked into a small spice shop, pretending to examine the colorful mounds of cumin and paprika while keeping an eye on the street. The men passed the shop without a glance inside. Once they were out of sight, Maya exited and changed direction, taking a longer but less obvious route to the safe house. The bookstore was nestled between a cafe and a souvenir shop, its weathered sign reading, Kitaplar ve daha fazlası, books and more. Maya entered casually, browsing the shelves as she assessed the situation. An elderly man sat behind the counter reading a newspaper. A young couple examined travel guides near the front window. A middle-aged woman with short gray hair stood in the history section. Maya moved to the poetry section and pulled out a volume of Rumi's works. She opened it to page 42 and pretended to read, the signal to the safe house operator that an agent needed extraction. The elderly man folded his newspaper and stood, stretching as if tired from sitting too long. He walked to the back of the store and through a curtained doorway. A moment later, the gray-haired woman approached Maya. "The Rumi collection is excellent," she said in English with a slight accent. "But we have more selections in our rare books room if you're interested." The recognition phrase. Maya nodded. "I'd love to see them." The woman led her through the store to a small door near the back, different from where the elderly man had gone. Beyond it was a small windowless room lined with bookshelves. The woman closed the door behind them and pressed a hidden switch. One of the bookshelves swung inward, revealing a narrow passageway. "Quickly," she said. "Your team is waiting." Maya followed her through the passage and down a flight of stairs. They emerged into a basement room equipped with communications gear, weapons, and emergency supplies. A fully operational CIA safe room. 2 agents were waiting, one monitoring communications equipment, the other checking a set of blueprints spread across a table. Both looked up as Maya entered. "Agent Johnson," said the one at the table, a stocky man with close-cropped hair. I'm Agent Patel, this is Agent Chen, glad you made it. Maya set her bag on the table. What's the situation? Your hotel room was hit by what appears to be Turkish intelligence, Agent Chen explained, turning from her communications console. We don't think they know who you are, but they were tipped off about an American exchanging information with Kemal Ozturk. Is Kemal safe? Maya asked. Agent Patel nodded. So far, he's under surveillance, but his position in the government offers some protection. They can't move against him without evidence. What about the intelligence? Agent Chen asked. Did you secure it? Nothing official, Chief Harrison assured her. As far as the system is concerned, you never missed your flight. They reached the final door, which opened to reveal a sleek black SUV waiting on the tarmac. Your chariot awaits, Chief Harrison said with a small smile. Good luck in Istanbul. Maya thanked him again and headed for the vehicle. As she settled into the back seat, she couldn't help but look back at the main terminal where her original flight had been. The unfairness of what had happened still stung, but she had a job to do. The driver, a silent man in a dark suit who had clearly been briefed on the situation, pulled away from the curb and headed toward the private airfield on the outskirts of the airport property. Maya took out her compact mirror again and sent a brief update to headquarters. Extraction, successful. En route to alternative transport. Mission proceeding. As the SUV sped along the airport service road, Maya's thoughts returned to Officers Wilson and Daniels. Their actions today had nearly compromised a vital operation, all because of their prejudice. She wondered how many other travelers face similar treatment without the benefit of an intelligence agency to back them up. How many flights missed, connections lost, and humiliations endured because someone decided they didn't belong. The charter plane came into view, a sleek Gulfstream with diplomatic markings. Maya put away her compact mirror and prepared for the next phase of her mission. But she made a mental note. When this was all over, she would make sure those officers faced consequences for their actions. The mission came first. Justice would have to wait. The diplomatic Gulfstream soared over the Atlantic, its cabin quiet except for the steady hum of the engines. Maya sat by the window, watching clouds drift beneath the wings. The private flight was a far cry from the commercial airliner she'd originally been booked on, one unexpected benefit of the morning's complications. She checked her watch. They were making good time. Despite the delay at Dulles, she would still reach Istanbul with enough hours to prepare for tomorrow's meeting. The mission timeline remained intact, if slightly compressed. Maya opened her laptop and reviewed the operation files one more time. 3 years of careful intelligence gathering had led to this moment. Her contact in Istanbul, a mid-level bureaucrat named Kemal, had finally gained access to the information they needed. Proof of an international money laundering operation that funded terrorist cells across Europe and Asia. The flight attendant, a young woman with a discreet earpiece that marked her as more than just cabin crew, approached with a cup of coffee. We'll be landing in approximately 6 hours. Ms. Johnson, she said, placing the coffee on Maya's tray table. Director Alvarez asked me to inform you that there's been no change to your meeting schedule. Maya thanked her and took a sip of the coffee, strong and black, exactly how she liked it. The attendant knew her preference without asking, another small reminder that she was now operating within the protective bubble of the agency. As the attendant moved away, Maya's thoughts drifted back to the incident at Dulles. The smirks on the officers' faces, the unnecessary power play, the assumption that she didn't belong. It wasn't the first time she'd faced such treatment, and she doubted it would be the last. But each incident carried its own particular sting. Maya opened her secure phone and pulled up the information chief. Harrison had transferred to her before departure. The officers' full names and badge numbers. Officer Thomas Wilson and Officer Richard Daniels. She memorized the details, then deleted the file. There would be time later to address what had happened. For now, she needed to focus on the mission. Maya spent the next 2 hours reviewing her cover identity and memorizing the latest intelligence about her target location. The meeting with Kemal was set for 10 a.m. at a small cafe near the Grand Bazaar, public enough to avoid suspicion but with sufficient privacy for their exchange. After a light meal and another cup of coffee, Maya reclined her seat and tried to get some sleep. The events of the morning had left her more drained than she wanted to admit, and she needed to be sharp for what lay ahead. She drifted off to the gentle vibration of the aircraft Her last conscious thought a reminder to herself that no matter what obstacles arose, the mission would come first. The sound of the landing gear deploying woke Maya from her sleep. Outside the window, the lights of Istanbul glittered in the pre-dawn darkness, a sprawling tapestry of gold and silver against the black canvas of the Bosphorus Strait. "We'll be landing in 15 minutes. Ms. Johnson," the flight attendant informed her. "A car will be waiting to take you to your hotel." Maya thanked her and freshened up in the lavatory, changing into clothes more suitable for her arrival in Turkey: dark jeans, a loose blouse, and a light jacket. Professional but unassuming, the kind of outfit that wouldn't draw attention in the bustling streets of Istanbul. The plane touched down smoothly at a private airfield outside the main international airport. As promised, a black sedan was waiting on the tarmac. The driver, a local agent, greeted her with a respectful nod. "Welcome to Istanbul, Ms. Johnson," he said, opening the car door for her. "I am Amit. I will be your driver during your stay." Maya settled into the back seat, her carry-on beside her. The car pulled away from the airfield, heading toward the city center. "Has there been any change to my schedule, Amit?" she asked. "No, ma'am. Your meeting is still set for 10 a.m. at Café Bosphorus. Your hotel room is ready, and we've arranged for breakfast to be delivered at 7. Maya nodded, grateful for the agency's efficiency. "And Kamal? Any word from him?" "He confirmed the meeting last night. All appears to be in order." The car wound its way through the gradually awakening city. Street vendors were setting up their carts, and early morning commuters hurried toward bus stops and metro stations. The muezzin's call to prayer echoed from distant minarets, a haunting melody that drifted through the dawn air. They arrived at the hotel, a boutique establishment in the historic Sultanahmet district, chosen for its discreet service and strategic location near the meeting point. The front desk staff processed her check-in quickly, and within minutes, Maya was in her room on the 4th floor. The room was elegant but simple: a comfortable bed, a writing desk by the window, and a bathroom with a shower and soaking tub. Most importantly, it had clear sightlines to both the street and the building's rear exit, with no tall structures nearby that could serve as sniper positions. Maya swept the room for surveillance devices, a standard precaution. Finding none, she unpacked her few belongings and set up her secure communication equipment. She sent a brief message to headquarters: "Arrive safely. Meeting on schedule." The response came quickly: "Acknowledged. Proceed as planned. Additional asset in place near cafe as backup." That was a surprise. Maya hadn't expected backup. Standard protocol for this type of operation was minimal presence to avoid drawing attention. The fact that headquarters had positioned another agent nearby suggested they were taking the incident at Dulles more seriously than she'd thought. Maya showered and changed, then spent an hour reviewing her files on Kamal and the expected information exchange. At precisely 7 a.m., room service delivered breakfast: Turkish coffee, fresh fruit, and a selection of pastries. Maya ate methodically, fueling her body for the day ahead while continuing to study her briefing materials. At 8:30, she packed her essentials into a small leather handbag, her credentials hidden in a secret compartment, her secure phone, and a compact pistol that could pass through most civilian security measures undetected. Standard field kit for an agent of her level. She left the hotel at 9:15, choosing to walk the short distance to the cafe rather than having Amit drive her. Walking would allow her to check for surveillance and get a feel for the morning crowds. The streets were busy now, filled with tourists and locals going about their day. Maya moved among them confidently, her stride purposeful but unhurried. To any observer, she would appear to be just another Western businesswoman, perhaps on her way to a meeting or to explore the city's famous sights. She took a circuitous route to the cafe, doubling back twice to ensure she wasn't being followed. Old habits, ingrained through years of training and field operations. Better to be cautious than compromised. The Café Bosphorus was a charming establishment with blue-painted shutters and a terrace overlooking a small square. Maya arrived at 9:45, 15 minutes before the scheduled meeting. She chose a table with a view of both the entrance and the street, positioned so that her back was to the wall. A waiter approached, and Maya ordered another Turkish coffee. As she waited, she scanned the square, identifying potential threats and escape routes. 3 exits from the cafe, a narrow alley to the left that led to a parallel street, a souvenir shop across the square with a rear exit that would connect to the main road. At 9:58, a man entered the cafe. Medium height, middle-aged, with graying hair and a neatly trimmed beard. Kemal Öztürk right on time. He wore a light gray suit and carried a leather briefcase, exactly as described in her briefing. He spotted her immediately. They had never met in person, but photos had been exchanged through secure channels. He approached her table with a professional smile. "Ms. Johnson?" he said, extending his hand. "Kemal Öztürk, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. Any flight? Given the timing, you'll need to rebook for a later departure." Maya felt a surge of frustration but kept her expression neutral. This was deliberate. They were making sure she would miss her flight. And she couldn't do anything about it without revealing who she really was. From outside the office, she heard the announcement for her flight's boarding call. The operation was now in jeopardy. 3 years of work, countless resources, and potentially lives were at stake. All because 2 officers had decided to target her for her appearance, or more likely for the color of her skin. As Officer Wilson continued typing into the system, Maya made a decision. She needed to play along for now, get out of this situation and activate the emergency protocols. There was still a chance to salvage the mission if she acted quickly. "I understand," she said, keeping her voice calm. "What do I need to do?" Maya sat quietly in the small security office, watching as Officer Wilson continued to type into the computer system. Through the thin walls, she could hear her flight being called for final boarding. The mission timeline was slipping away with each passing minute. "So what happens next?" she asked, keeping her voice level despite the growing knot of frustration in her stomach. Officer Daniels, still leaning against the wall, shrugged. "You'll need to rebook your flight, and next time consider dressing more appropriately for public travel." Maya noticed how he looked at his partner when he said this, the slight smirk they shared. This wasn't about her clothes, she knew that. She'd seen dozens of travelers wearing similar outfits pass through security without issue. This was about power, about singling out someone who looked like her. "Can I see the specific dress code policy I've violated?" she asked. Officer Wilson stopped typing and leaned back in his chair. "Look, we don't need to show you anything. We're authorized to remove anyone from the secure area who doesn't meet airport standards." "And what exactly are those standards?" Maya pressed, careful to keep her tone curious rather than confrontational. The officers exchanged another look. Maya recognized the silent communication. They hadn't expected to be questioned this directly, and they didn't have a real answer. "Listen," Officer Daniels said, his voice hardening. "You can make this difficult or you can cooperate. Either way, you're not getting on that flight." Outside the office window, Maya could see her gate. The final passengers were boarding. In 5 minutes, the doors would close and the plane would begin its preparations for departure. She needed to make a call. Now. "May I use the restroom?" she asked. Officer Wilson frowned. "We're in the middle of processing your case." "I understand, but I've been traveling all morning. It will just take a minute." Another shared look between the officers. Officer Daniels nodded reluctantly. "Fine, but I'll escort you there and wait outside." Maya grabbed her carry-on, but Officer Daniels shook his head. "Leave the bag here." Maya hesitated. Her secure phone was in that bag, the one with the emergency protocols and encrypted communication lines. Without it, she couldn't contact headquarters. "I need my personal items," she said, trying a different approach. "Female hygiene products." Officer Wilson rolled his eyes, but Officer Daniels nodded. "Fine, but I'll need to check the bag first." Maya handed over her carry-on, careful to maintain her composed expression as Officer Daniels unzipped it and rummaged through her neatly packed clothes. He pulled out her cosmetics bag and opened it, examining the contents. "Happy now?" he said, handing it back to her. Maya nodded, taking the small bag. What the officer didn't know was that her backup communication device was disguised as a compact mirror, standard CIA issue for field operatives. "Officer." Daniels led her to the women's restroom just outside the security office. 5 minutes, he said, taking up position by the door. Inside the restroom, Maya quickly checked under the stalls to ensure she was alone. Then she locked herself in the furthest stall, opened the compact mirror, and activated the hidden communication device. "Ramirez," she whispered. "Code yellow at Dulles. Flight compromised. Need extraction and alternative transport to Istanbul." The compact blinked 3 times, confirming the message had been sent. Maya took a deep breath, steadying herself. There were protocols for this. The mission wasn't over yet. She flushed the toilet for show, then spent a minute washing her hands before rejoining Officer Daniels in the hallway. "All set?" he asked with obvious impatience. Maya nodded, and they walked back to the security office. Through the window, she could see her plane pushing back from the gate. A wave of frustration washed over her, but she pushed it down. "Focus on what you can control," she reminded herself. When they returned to the office, Officer Wilson was on the phone, his expression serious. He hung up as they entered. "That was my supervisor," he said, his tone noticeably different. "He wants to speak with you personally about this situation." Maya caught the flash of surprise on Officer Daniels's face. This wasn't part of their plan. "Your supervisor?" she asked. "Head of airport security," Officer Wilson clarified, looking uncomfortable now. "He'll be here in 5 minutes. Maya sat down again, placing her cosmetics bag on her lap. Her emergency message had been received faster than expected. The compact had a built-in tracker. Headquarters now knew exactly where she was. The next few minutes passed in awkward silence. Officer Wilson kept checking his watch while Officer Daniels paced near the door. The power dynamic in the room had shifted, though Maya wasn't sure how much. Finally, there was a sharp knock at the door. Officer Daniels opened it to reveal a tall man in a suit, flanked by 2 TSA officials. "Officers," the man said, his voice carrying immediate authority. "I'm Chief Harrison, head of airport security. What's going on here?" Officer Wilson stood quickly. "Sir, we were conducting a standard dress code enforcement." Chief Harrison cut him off with a raised hand. "I'd like to speak with the passenger alone, please." The 2 officers hesitated, then filed out of the room. Chief Harrison closed the door behind them and turned to Maya. "Ms. Johnson," he said quietly, "I believe there's been a misunderstanding." Maya studied him carefully. Was this part of her extraction or something else? "My flight just left," she said. "Because these officers decided my completely normal travel clothes were somehow inappropriate." Chief Harrison nodded. "I apologize for that. It appears there was a miscommunication about airport policies." He glanced at the door to ensure it was fully closed, then lowered his voice further. "I received a call from Director Alvarez." Code Yellow acknowledged. Maya felt a rush of relief. Director Alvarez was Ramirez's superior. The emergency protocols were in motion. "What happens now?" she asked. "We have a private security entrance on the other side of the terminal," Chief Harrison explained. "There's a charter flight waiting that can get you to Istanbul with minimal delay. You'll still make your meeting tomorrow morning." Maya nodded, grateful for the efficiency of the backup systems. "And those officers?" she asked. "Will be dealt with," Chief Harrison assured her. "But right now our priority is getting you on that plane." He handed Maya her carry-on bag, which someone had brought from the security office. "Your documents are inside. The officers never had the authority to detain you in the first place." Maya checked her watch. Almost 40 minutes had passed since she was first approached at security. Precious time lost, but not catastrophic for the mission. "Ready?" Chief Harrison asked. Maya nodded, slinging her bag over her shoulder. They exited through a side door, avoiding the main terminal where Officers Wilson and Daniels might see them. As they walked, Chief Harrison filled her in on the new travel arrangements. "The charter is a diplomatic flight. You'll have the cabin to yourself. We've prepared the same cover story. As far as anyone knows, you're still an art dealer heading to Istanbul for a business meeting." They reached a secure door that required Chief Harrison's keycard and fingerprint to open. Beyond it was a small private security checkpoint staffed by serious-looking agents who nodded respectfully as they approached. "Ms. Johnson is cleared for expedited processing," Chief Harrison told them. Priority level Alpha. The security team worked with practiced efficiency, scanning Maya's bag and checking her documentation without unnecessary questions. Within minutes, she was through the checkpoint. "A car is waiting to take you to the private airfield," Chief Harrison said, walking her to yet another secure door. "Your new flight details have been uploaded to your secure device. Director Alvarez sends his regards and reminds you that the timetable remains unchanged." Maya felt a small measure of relief. The operation was still viable. "Thank you," she said sincerely. Chief Harrison nodded. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry about what happened. Those officers had no right to treat you that way." Maya appreciated the acknowledgement, but she'd been through similar situations before. This wasn't about her personally. It was about systemic problems that went far beyond two biased airport cops. "Will there be any record of this incident?" she asked. The early morning sun streamed through the massive glass windows of Dulles International Airport, casting long shadows across the polished floor. Maya Johnson checked her watch one more time as she joined the security line. 6:15 a.m. Her flight to Istanbul would board in 40 minutes, plenty of time even with the notoriously slow security checkpoints. Maya adjusted her black carry-on bag and took a deep breath. To anyone watching, she looked like any other traveler, perhaps a bit more alert, a bit more aware of her surroundings. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she wore simple black joggers, comfortable for the long flight ahead, paired with a fitted tank top and a light jacket tied around her waist. Standard travel clothes, practical and unassuming. What no one could see was that Maya had been awake for 36 hours straight, finalizing details for an operation 3 years in the making. Hidden in her seemingly ordinary phone was encrypted intelligence that needed to reach her contact in Istanbul by tomorrow morning. The timing was critical. "Next," called the TSA agent, barely looking up from his station. Maya stepped forward, passport and boarding pass in hand. The agent glanced at her documents, then at her face, and waved her through to the screening area. She placed her carry-on on the conveyor belt, along with her jacket, shoes, and the small plastic bag containing her travel-sized toiletries. Standard procedure. Nothing to worry about. As she waited her turn to walk through the metal detector, Maya mentally reviewed her cover story one more time. Art dealer, specializing in Middle Eastern antiquities, meeting a potential seller in Istanbul. Simple, believable, and close enough to the truth that she could maintain the story without hesitation. The line moved forward. Maya stepped through the metal detector. Oh, beep. Good. She was gathering her belongings from the other side when she felt someone watching her. Years of training had honed her instincts. Without making it obvious, she scanned the area. 2 airport security officers, not TSA but airport police, were standing near the exit of the security area, talking quietly. One of them kept glancing in her direction. Maya slipped on her shoes and grabbed her bag, maintaining an unhurried pace. Maybe she was being paranoid. After all, airport security was supposed to be vigilant. Still, something felt off. She had just put her jacket back on when the 2 officers approached her. "Excuse me, ma'am," said the taller of the 2, a man with a crew cut and a badge that read Officer Daniels. "Could we have a word with you?" Maya nodded, her face neutral. "Of course, officers. Is something wrong?" The second officer, shorter with a buzz cut and the name Wilson on his badge, looked her up and down with an expression that made Maya's skin prickle. "We've received complaints about inappropriate attire in the terminal," Officer Wilson said, his tone making it clear that he considered her the problem. Maya blinked, genuinely confused. "I'm sorry, but I don't understand. Is there a dress code issue?" She glanced down at her clothes. Standard athleisure wear, no different from what dozens of other travelers were wearing. "The airport has standards for proper public appearance," Daniel said, his voice carrying just enough to draw attention from nearby travelers. "Your outfit is revealing." Maya felt a familiar tightness in her chest, the one that always appeared when she encountered this kind of treatment. She'd experienced similar situations before, and she recognized what was happening. Other women in similar or even more casual outfits were passing through security without comment. A white woman in yoga pants and a crop top had walked by just moments ago, completely unbothered. "I'm wearing joggers and a tank top with a jacket," Maya said calmly, keeping her voice level. "This is standard travel attire. Could you please explain what specific policy I'm violating?" Officer Wilson's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, we don't need to explain ourselves. We're authorized to remove anyone from the premises who doesn't comply with airport regulations." By now, several travelers had slowed down to watch the interaction. Maya noticed a middle-aged woman with a concerned expression take out her phone, possibly to record the situation. Maya took a deep breath. This was a complication she couldn't afford right now. Every minute spent here was a minute closer to missing her flight, and potentially compromising the entire operation. "May I speak with your supervisor?" she asked, maintaining her composure. The officers exchanged a look. "You can speak with a supervisor after you exit the secure area," Officer Daniel said. "For now, we need you to come with us." Maya quickly weighed her options. She could show them her CIA credentials, hidden in a secret compartment of her wallet, but that would blow her cover. Years of careful work establishing her alias would be wasted. The operation itself could be compromised. I have a flight boarding soon, she tried. Could we resolve this quickly? Perhaps I could put on my jacket fully if that would help. Officer Wilson stepped closer, lowering his voice. Listen, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Either you come with us now or we call for backup and make this much more embarrassing for you. Maya caught the slight smirk on his face as he glanced at his partner. She'd seen that look before. The small power trip, the enjoyment of making someone feel small and helpless. More people were watching now. A young man had definitely started filming with his phone. The last thing Maya needed was to become a viral video. Her face plastered across social media would destroy her ability to work undercover. Fine, she said, keeping her voice steady. I'll come with you. As they led her away from the security checkpoint, Maya noticed the stark difference in how they treated her compared to others around them. Their hands hovered near their belts as if she might try to run or resist at any moment. This is ridiculous, said a voice from behind them. Maya turned to see an older black woman shaking her head. I'm wearing almost the exact same thing. Why aren't you stopping me? Officer Daniels ignored her, placing a hand on Maya's elbow to guide her toward the exit. The contact wasn't rough, but it was unnecessary. A small show of dominance. Maya's mind raced as they walked. She needed to contact her handler, Agent Ramirez. There were backup protocols for situations like this, but they would take time to implement. Time she didn't have. As they approached the exit of the secure area, Maya spotted a clock on the wall. 6:32. Her flight would start boarding in 23 minutes. Look, she said, trying one more time. I'm happy to address any concerns about my attire, but I have an important business meeting in Istanbul tomorrow. Is there any way we can resolve this without me missing my flight? Officer Wilson shook his head. You should have thought about that before deciding to dress inappropriately in a public airport. Maya noticed how he emphasized the word public, as if her clothing was somehow indecent. She was fully covered, more so than many other travelers she'd seen that morning. They reached the exit where a small security office was located just past the TSA checkpoint. Officer Daniels opened the door and gestured for her to enter. Inside, a desk with a computer faced the door, and 2 chairs sat in front of it. The walls were bare except for a bulletin board with various security notices and airport regulations. Have a seat, Officer Daniels said, pointing to one of the chairs. Maya sat down, keeping her carry-on close. Her encrypted phone was in the side pocket. She needed to find a way to contact Ramirez without these officers seeing. So what happens now? She asked. Now we file a report, Officer Wilson said, sitting behind the desk and turning on the computer. We'll need your ID and boarding pass. Maya hesitated, then reached for her purse. As she did, she discreetly pressed the emergency button sequence on her phone. 3 quick taps followed by 1 long press. It would send an alert to headquarters with her GPS location. She handed over her passport and boarding pass, watching as Officer Wilson typed her information into the system. Maya Johnson, he read aloud. Flying to Istanbul, Turkey. He looked up at her with suspicion. What's your business in Turkey? I'm an art dealer, she replied smoothly. I'm meeting with a collector who has some pieces I'm interested in. Officer Daniels leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Art dealer, right. The way he said it made it clear he didn't believe her. Maya recognized the pattern. The automatic assumption that she must be lying, that someone like her couldn't possibly have a legitimate reason for international travel. She checked the time again. 6:41. Boarding had started. Officers, I understand you're doing your job, but I'm going to miss my flight. Can you please explain exactly what policy I've violated so I can avoid this issue in the future? Officer Wilson swiveled the computer screen toward Officer Daniels, ignoring her question. They exchanged another look, and Daniels nodded. Ms. Johnson, according to our records, you've been flagged for additional screening, Officer Wilson said. Turning back to her, Maya knew this was a lie. There was no way she'd been flagged. Her cover was impeccable, and the CIA had cleared all potential obstacles for this mission. That's impossible, she said. I went through all the regular security screenings without any issues. Nevertheless, Officer Daniels cut in. We'll need to conduct additional checks before you can board.